All right. Hi, everyone. This is Megan Jones, Executive Director at ICEAA. We're joined today by Paul Marston, our International President, and Mike Thompson, our International Vice President, here to give you the 2017 All Members Update meeting. We got some questions from you in advance, and we'll be looking forward to answering those towards the end of the presentation. If you ever have questions for us, you can always send us an email. But until then, I'm going to pass it off to Paul.
Thank you, Megan. Well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for dialing into ICEAA's annual members meeting. As Megan said, I'm Paul Marston, the ICEAA president, and also Megan, of course, and Mike Thompson are in the background, prepared to help present the material today and answer any questions. I really just want to express my appreciation to all of you for your willingness to spend an hour or so to hear what's going on with the association. Along with our ICEAA World, our website, our board meetings, an occasional email broadcast, this meeting is really an important way for us to communicate with our members. More than that, it's one of the few times all of you have a direct line to ask us questions and give us feedback, and I appreciate it if you have taken advantage of that. So thank you very much. If you remember, for some of you who've been around a while, we used to do the annual meeting at the conference. The last day usually kind of holed up in one of the side rooms, and usually, somewhere between 1 and 5 people showed up who didn't have a flight for a couple hours. It tended to not be particularly productive or a good route to really communicate with the members. So a couple of years ago, we switched over to this WebEx format, and with the hope that we could reach a little bit wider audience and so forth. It went pretty well. We're still experimenting with the format. I think so far this year has gone a little bit smoother than the other two, so maybe we're getting better or smarter about it. But so I appreciate everybody dialing in, and we'll go from there. Megan, why don't you go to the overview slide? Okay, so as you can see by the agenda, we've got a fair amount of ground to cover today. We're going to be hitting a number of things, including talking about the board, the current board, and the state of the association, which is really the heart of the agenda. And we'll be answering some questions. And as Megan said, if you have a question, you might be able to put it up on the chat box up there, and maybe we can get to that if it doesn't go too long. So with that, why don't we go to the next slide? So the purpose of the annual members meeting is really to share information on what's going on in the association. There's a lot of activity that you don't see day to day. You kind of see the tip of the iceberg in terms of the annual conference, occasional workshops here and there. Of course, all of the publications that go out, ICEAA World and the Journal and so forth, and maybe you have an occasion here and there to talk to your board representative and so forth, and maybe they pass on some information. But there's a lot of work going on month to month with the board in terms of trying to make some progress on the association and better serve our memberships. So we'll talk a little bit about what we've accomplished over the last year, where we're headed, and then we'll jump into the questions. Next slide. All right, so I think everybody knows that we had an election earlier this year. We go through it every 2 years. We have a newly constituted board. There's actually quite a few new members on board this time. I'll just kind of run through the list here. First of all, myself, Paul Marston, president. I was the president of the last term, so it's kind of the second term, and then I will be phasing out. Mike Thompson is the executive vice president. Andy Prince is new to the board, has been involved in the past is our Vice President for Professional Development. Bob Hunt is continuing as the Treasurer. Greg Kiviat is continuing as the Secretary. Brian Glauser is still the past President until I move on. And Aaron Barkle is a new Director from Canada. Tamika Williams is a Director. Jason Deckeretz is our non-aligned Director. Tracy Clavel is the Director for Australia. George Teologlu, I always have trouble with his name, is our European Director. You'd think I'd get better at that since I'm spending so much time over here, but I still struggle. Sanep Rajagopal is the UK Director. Arlene Minkowitz is Region 1 Director. Rick Collins is Region 2. Nicole Sullivan, 3. Steve Glagoza is Region 4. William Metz is Region 5. John Deem is Region 6. And last but not least is Rich Harwin in Region 7. So that's the official board right now, and we're very happy to have the new folks on board, and looking forward to working with everybody. We do have a number of committees that we set up, and we've appointed new committee chairs. Some of them have continued from the previous years. Others are new, but we are trying to mix it up a little bit and bring in some new folks. Just very quickly, Bob Hunt as a treasurer is also the budget committee chair. We bring in some other people more independent for a fresh look at our budget and try to give us some advice on how we might, reduce our expenditures or get more out of our money and raise additional funds through our activities. Peter Andreev is still the certification committee chair. He is going to be bringing on we like to call an understudy. Peter's been doing this job for a long, long time, and we appreciate his efforts, but I think he's looking to the future and maybe stepping aside at some point. And Ellie Bassett is new as the chapter membership support committee chair. Very happy to have Ellie. She was a New England region president for quite a while and has been very involved in ICEAA for many years, and lots of talent, lots of great ideas. Tim Anderson, I think a lot of people know Tim, is the governance committee chair, which means that he's looking at ways of fine-tuning our constitution and bylaws. We find periodically that they get a little bit out of whack and they need adjustment. So Tim's the guy who's going to be providing advice on that. Then we have the International Awards Committee Chair, Dave Stem. Marketing and Communications is Christina Snyder. She has been doing that job for a while. Also new is Christian Smart, who will be leading the Outreach Committee, and he has already brought on a couple people to help him on that. That's an important one, and we'll probably talk about that a little bit more in a slide coming up. Andy Prince is the Professional Development Committee Chair in his role as the Vice President for Professional Development. So he's got a committee supporting him on that activity. And then Mike Thompson is the Conference Committee Chair this year. Neil Albert is still working the CBOC Update Task Force. And then we have Brian Glauser has been leading our Software Certification Committee for quite a while and will continue in that role. I think he wants to see that through. Okay, next slide, Megan.
If I can just jump in, these committees are really forming, so if anybody on the line or hears about anyone who wants to get involved, send me an email at the ICEAA box and I'll pass it on to the relevant chair.
Thanks, Megan. That's great. Very good point. Frankly, we are always looking for volunteers, particularly new volunteers. If you're on the phone out there and you've been looking for a way to get involved a little bit more in ICEAA, I encourage you to call Megan or send an email, and I'm sure we could use your help. I don't want to get on a soapbox too much, but I will just tell you that I've been involved in ICEAA for a long time. Yes, it requires some work and some commitment, but frankly, I've gotten a lot more out of the organization than I put in by a long shot in terms of career development and just professional skills and so forth. So definitely encourage you to get involved, or encourage friends of yours to get involved. So thank you. All right, next one.
So I kind of gave away my punchline, if I may. There is another person on the line, Chelsea Torres. Chelsea just started last Tuesday, so I believe we are on week number 2, and she's already knocking it out of the park. She recently graduated from my alma mater also, George Mason, with a BS in Tourism and Events Management. And she went to the Disney College program. So if anybody knows customer service, it's Disney, and it's clear already that she knows her stuff. So Chelsea, say hello.
Hi, everyone. Excited to be here.
So you guys will start seeing, you'll start seeing more emails from Chelsea. And what I'm especially excited about is with Chelsea on board, she's already just plowing through some of the little things that have been tying up a lot of my time. And I'm hoping now that I'm going to be, I'm sure of it, I'm going to have a lot more time to dedicate to development, membership development stuff, strategic things, getting these committees going. You know, the good work that takes a lot of time. So I'm really excited to have Chelsea with us. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah, I would just add, Megan's really been doing multiple jobs for quite a while. In an attempt to save money and continue making progress on a whole slew of fronts. And Chelsea's going to fill a big hole and really help us out. And so we're really looking forward to having her on board.
Cool. Well, thank you. Why don't you?
Okay, so we're moving into kind of accomplishments and so forth for the recent past. The first one that I wanted to kind of highlight and make you aware of, you may have heard some about what's going on through various means, but we're really in the thick of getting our flagship CBOC product updated. There's a number of things that we are doing right now. The first big one is we're going to be going through a replatforming effort, getting it off the traditional DVDs that we mail. I know it's hard to believe we still mail out DVDs, but we do. But we're going to be moving on into the real world of high tech, and we'll be putting the CBOC materials online, so you'll have access on whatever devices you want and anytime you want. That's well underway, and you'll be seeing lots more about that. We are still looking for comments and feedback on CBOC, on things that you think can be improved, or deficiencies that need to be corrected and so forth. That's probably a little bit more of a content issue than a platforming issue. But we would love to hear from you, so feel free to jump onto the user survey and fill that out and provide some feedback. Why don't you go to the next one, Megan? Yeah, and associated with that is we've undertaken under the guidance of Brian Glauser a huge effort developing what we call the software cost estimating body of knowledge. ICEAA has been in cooperation with an organization called NESMA, which is principally located in Europe and the Netherlands, but I think they've got offshoots all over the place, and IFPUG. A lot of you know IFPUG. They're the software estimation function point guys. All three organizations, and there's some other participants also that are very involved and in the thick of software cost estimating and software development and so forth. We've undertaken this effort to expand our materials on software, and in the near future we will be developing and launching a software certification. So we're looking forward to that. It's really a huge effort, but in the last year, we've made a tremendous amount of progress. Go to the next slide, Megan. As a matter of fact, now this is the list of other participants. So you can see from this slide, it's not just the 3 organizations. There's a lot of different associations and academic, government, and so forth organizations involved in this effort. So a lot of capability, a lot of real experts are lending a hand and really putting some input into it. Go to the next one. Yeah, so where I was alluding to earlier is we are well on our way to launching this thing and getting it off the ground, to the extent that in Portland we already presented a number of modules at the training conference, and I think most of the material was very well received. Just some real great insights into the whole field, and I think it's going to be a huge undertaking and a huge value to our members. So we're really looking forward to that. Brian really deserves huge kudos for shepherding this whole thing through. All right, why don't we go to the next one?
I'm just going to jump in. There's a link at the bottom of your screen. If you want to take a look, anybody wants to take a look at the modules that we presented in Portland, we've got the slides up there. And if you're just on your computer, there's a link, there's a box on the right side of the homepage that goes to the 2017 site, and you'll be able to find it under training.
And I'd also add, if anybody is interested in participating in this activity, this development effort, if you've got an interest in software estimating and just want to understand what the direction is and where we're going on some of this stuff, contact Brian. There is plenty of room for help, and we would love the expertise. So always looking for volunteers on that. Okay, next one. I'll say a little bit about this, and then maybe Megan can elaborate a little bit on it. But I think for all of you on the phone who have been involved in chapters, and I think that's probably the majority of you, most of us kind of grew up through the chapter system. You'll know that we've had our ups and downs with chapters. We're always looking for ways of improving our chapters and supporting them better and making them more effective. One of the issues that we've had over the last few years, probably a lot longer than that, is how we fund our chapters. I think a lot of you know that our basic method has been we've sent about $5 a person every year to the chapters to give them some funding and so forth to help with their activities. There's a number of issues with that we've been aware of for a long time. The first one is unfortunately, we've had some chapters that are really not particularly active, some in some cases all but defunct at this point. And because of the way the rules have worked, we've still been, sending money and so forth. And it's really, I'd love to say that ICEAA has all the money in the world and we can do whatever we want. But the fact is, resources are scarce and we need to use our money for our membership where it's going to get the most bang for the buck. So that's the first problem. Second problem is just tracking it and making sure that, administratively we are good stewards of the resources and doing things smartly and not wasting money. That's been an issue on and off. And the third thing is we want to find a way to reward and encourage the chapters to be more active and to do more for the membership. So we're looking for ways of rewarding that and encouraging them to expand their programs and so forth. So we've come up with a new funding regime. We have run it through the chapter presidents and lots of other people, gotten feedback, made some adjustments to it. I think we've officially launched it But with that, why don't I turn it over to Megan and you can elaborate a little bit.
So I guess the main purpose was that it was not, when I started here at ICEAA, it wasn't clear how it was done, and I couldn't find the procedure written down anywhere. So the first goal for me was to make sure that it was a policy that everybody could find. My concern about for a few years we've been giving $5 to everybody. If it's not written somewhere, how does everyone else know that it's happening? It was just kind of a rumor, and then there was no system in place of who qualified and for what, and whether or not it was 2-year members or 1-year members, and yada, 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 yada. So I'm a firm believer in putting everything out there for everyone to see, so that there aren't questions, and that, I believe that rules aren't just for stopping you from doing stuff, but telling you what you can do. So I'm hoping that this new procedure, by showing it through the chapter presidents, I'm going to present it to the board at our meeting later this month, and then I'm going to put it up on the website. Already, if you go to the chapters page, I put all the bylaws and constitutions for each of the chapters up there. I had a feeling that some of those may have gotten lost in the shuffle, or when, a new president took office, nobody was sure who had it. So now everybody has it. And as we go, whether it's chapter policies or other policies, getting everything in writing and transparent and accessible is something I'm really going to work towards. So there will be a section of policies and procedures for the chapters, and then next I want to get going on the board and all that other jazz. So look.
Yeah, I would just add, fundamentally, as I said, our objective is to support our chapters and make them successful. In this regard, it's making sure that they've got the finances that they need to do what they intend to do. We're not trying to reduce what we send to the chapters, and we stand ready to provide additional seed funding for activities if needed. Megan is there manning the phones and ready to write checks. So we hope this is a more productive way of doing it and really encourages chapters to expand their efforts.
Yeah.
Okay, ready for the next one?
May I take this one?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. So another thing that I've been working on over the summer, and Chelsea, in the week she's been here, has even made better. It was easy for me to put all the 2014 through 2017 presentations in a table that's searchable, because we had because they were already up on the website, but 13 and 12 and earlier were not. And I tasked Chelsea with it, and she's already got 12 and 13 up. So if you go to the ICEAA archives, there's looks like a little card catalog, for those of you who know what that is, on the front page of the website that you can get to it. And we're adding more and more of our historical papers and presentations as we speak.
Excellent.
You have anything to, okay?
Very good. Next one. Why don't you talk to this one too, Megan? I know you've been right in thick with MITRE on this effort.
So CostFax is something MITRE's been working on for a while, and it's a message board / sort of social media site that kind of lives by itself, that is focused on cost and, cost estimating and the whole related topics. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of talking, a lot of posts that happen. So we've been working with MITRE to connect more ICEAA members to CostFacts. I strongly encourage everybody to go join in and get on the board. There's information about ICEAA workshops as well as other workshops. There's people asking questions about best practices and getting answers in real time from their colleagues. So if you go to the ICEAA front page, you can click on the join the conversation icon, which you see there, to get started. The folks at MITRE will help you get going, and they're really doing some great work out there. So we encourage everybody to get involved.
And I would just add, I've been on it numerous times. If you haven't had the chance to do it yet, I really encourage you to check it out. It's a pretty slick tool. It's cutting edge, very user friendly. But with all of these kind of communities, online communities, the real strength of it is the number of people who are on and spending time, engaging and so forth. I think they've got a pretty good nucleus at this point, but the more people in our wider community who, as they say, join the conversation, the more powerful it becomes. So encourage everybody to jump on that. And obviously ICEAA we're associated with it. I guess I would call us a sponsor of it. I'm not sure what that means in this context, but we're definitely a supporter, and we're working with MITRE to make this another tool in the toolbox for all of our community. Okay. All right, we're going to be getting into kind of the real nuts and bolts about what's going on in the association, our finances and attendance and at the conferences and so forth. And I'll let Megan take this next few.
So we had a hell of a year in Portland. We crested 161 as far as our revenue is concerned, and that's really our biggest source of revenue at ICEAA. Our dues, though we raised them a while ago, they still pretty much are neutral as far as the costs it takes us to print the magazines and do the website and have a staff and all that. So the conference is really where we get our year. And it's been progressively better. Things are looking up. It looks like the low point we hit in 2013 with sequestration is kind of leveling back out. And we're making about as much money, if you look at it, we're getting as much revenue with 406 people as we did in 2010 with 600. So not only is there more revenue coming in, but it's better. It's being better utilized, and so it's getting. Yeah, go ahead.
I would just add, Megan's not going to say it, but a lot of it has to do with her management skill and her experience running conferences and so forth. And kind of a corollary of that is she's done a pretty good job of tutoring and training our conference chairs and the staff on kind of best practices and how we go about this. So I think as an organization, we're much more astute about how we do this stuff than we were a few years back. And it's, part of it's necessity. We did have some lean years, and we really needed to take a hard look at how we were running a conference and what we were spending money on. So Megan's really done a fantastic job on this. And I personally think, and, you guys can agree, disagree, but I think it's a more productive conference than it is today than it was a few years ago. The content is, I think, better. It's more user friendly. I think people just get more out of it than in the distant past. So, I think there's a lot more to come. I think we continue to experiment, continue to do new things, and I think it's going to continue growing in the next few years. So, looking forward to that.
Okay, one sec. All right. So we've got IPM coming up in a little over a month, right around Halloween. It's going to be in Bethesda. our collaborative effort between CPM and CPM and NDIA. So folks who are looking to get some more training in 2017, we strongly encourage you to check that out. Also, we've got some of the folks who had some of our best papers in Portland, as well as ones. We had a new question on the feedback survey in Portland this year that said, what was the session you most wished you could have seen but couldn't see? And we were able to single out some of those folks and get them to represent at IPM. So head on over to IPMworkshop.org for more information on that. In other good news, we are already accepting your abstracts for Phoenix. The deadline is going to be December 4th, and so as soon as you know what you want to talk about, go ahead and tell us about it, and we'll start considering it. Also, this year we're offering an early bird rate for people who sign up before May 1st. So we encourage you to sign up for Phoenix no later than May 1st to get the best deal. I know how you costers like to get a good deal. I just got back from a trip to Phoenix, checking out the hotel. It's going to be pretty sweet. There's a lot of really good restaurants and stuff right within a block or two. I did a stroll, and there were at least 5 or 6, but that's for after 7 p.m. The meeting space is fantastic. We're going to have a lot of room for all our breakouts. Mike, do you want to say anything on this?
We literally have the whole hotel, which is something new for us. And it's just a couple blocks down the street from the
Diamondbacks.
The Diamondbacks Stadium. So we're crossing our fingers that the Diamondbacks will be playing while we're there. We have already contacted and are waiting for confirmation 3 keynote speakers. So in my brief memory, it's pretty much the first time we've contacted this many people this early, and we're feeling really good about it. And we are putting together the committees for the conference. So be sure to send, if you want to volunteer for something, send Megan an email and let her know. So but thanks. I think it's going to be a great conference, and I think we've got some exciting stuff in store.
Well said.
And I'm really looking forward to it. From a guy who lives in the land of very little sunshine, I hear there's a little bit of sunshine in Phoenix.
Couple days.
It's going to be warm, but then again, I've got you guys blocked from 7 a.m. till 7 p.m. So if you're out in the heat of the day, that's your fault. Also, I don't know if you remember this, Paul, but the restaurant in the hotel is called Marston's.
I do remember that. I hope I get a cut.
Yeah. So, in short, the early bird it's $100 off. This is something we're trying out. We'll see if it works. Also, another thing we're going to try out this year, we need to get our speakers registered early. It's really important to us to be sure that you guys are going to be there once you agree to speak. Rather than us being sort of left in the lurch if something happens. So once the abstracts are accepted, I'm going to be sending out a coupon code to all the accepted abstracts, and there will be 2 codes per presentation for $100 off if speakers register before March 31st. So, you and your co-presenter, if you book early and secure your spot, we're going to thank you for that to the tune of $100.
The other thing I would bring up is just for those of you who have gone to the conferences in the past, the last one in Portland, we had a bumper crop of exhibitors and so forth. if you're part of a company or an organization that wants to exhibit, think about it early. I'm not sure if we've had to turn anybody away yet, but it was getting pretty darn close in Portland. So we may be in that situation in Phoenix. So the earlier you sign up and get committed to it, the better.
Awesome. Thank you. Do you want me to stay with this one?
Well, let me start off, and then you can decipher the details a little bit. But suffice to say, we're not trying to hide it. Our membership has been in a bit of a downward trend for a while. There's a number of reasons for that, and maybe I'm quibbling a little bit, but we're quite certain that 4 or 5 years back the data was a bit inflated because of poor record keeping, and I think that explains why it's come down a little bit, but that doesn't really address the real heart of the problem in that it's in this day and age, it's a challenge to grow organization, to maintain organizations, and to attract new members. We're struggling with that. Some of the efforts that we are embarking on, that we've hit upon in terms of communication and value to our members, and putting money into improving CBOC and so forth, all plays in that. We're very aware of the challenges that we face. I don't think we're in any kind of critical phase or whatever, but we would all like to see the organization growing rather than kind of declining. A lot of positive stuff going on. I think it's a matter of getting the word out and convincing kind of the next generation that there is some value in being part of an organization like ICEAA. And as I said, just getting the message out that the more you put into these things, the more you get out in terms of your career and contacts and just knowing people and where to go for good advice. So I think it pays dividends, and I would encourage people to join. But we have challenges, and you can see the data and the bar charts here. So Megan, if you want to add any more details, go ahead.
Well, I don't think it's any consolation, but maybe it is. Associations across the board are having this problem. If anybody figures out the magic spell to get membership up and participation up, then, I got some people you should talk to. We're doing the best we can, and we're going to try a whole bunch of new things. There's going to be some spitballs on the wall that are good, and maybe they're not, but we're willing, to try anything to get folks more involved. I think the interesting thing about the chart before you is that it's not just one group that's, one region or anything. The decline is pretty much proportional across the country, across the industries, all that. So it's just happening. I mean, the thing about joining an association like this is that it's the involvement and the talking and the going to the conference and the volunteering to do stuff gets you that handshake, that gets you the LinkedIn connection. People think like, why join an association in this day and age? I can just do it all on LinkedIn. But there's a real difference between making a connection of somebody that you spoke to and more than just, I'd like to join my professional network. And that's something we're working to get the message out on.
And then I would add, you wouldn't be on the call if you didn't care. And, all I'm asking you to do is to think about this, situation and so forth, and, actively engage with your colleagues who may not be members. Every once in a while I'll talk to them about why you've become a member, why you've sustained your membership, and what you think you get out of it. And feel free to share those stories with us. We've been putting little blurbs in the ICEAA world talking about why some of us are members and what we've experienced over the years, they're interesting stories, and everybody has a little bit different take. But you guys are all supporters, or you wouldn't be on the line. We welcome your help, your ideas, and just your ability to spread the word. Enough on this one?
Yeah.
Talk some money. You can wade through this one, Megan.
So it's going to be a better year than I feared back in December. I tend to budget very conservatively because I'd rather, oh shucks, we're making more money than, hey, I'm sorry, we're not going to make as much as we thought. Most of that is due to two things. The conference did a lot better than we expected, and Chelsea only got here last week. So I had been budgeting for her position for the whole year, and due to my being so darn busy to stop what I'm doing to teach somebody how to do the things that are making me so busy, it wasn't until just recently that we got that position in. But everything else, DBOC is continuing to do pretty well. We anticipate it'll hit more than what we expected, maybe even more than that. Again, I tend to budget conservatively. So it was looking pretty bad. Well, I guess bad comparatively to previous years. It was much worse than that. But we're going to pull it out. It'll be all right.
Yeah, and I would finish up this slide with just saying a couple things. So if you look at our financial situation over the last few years, I think we hit kind of a low point. And it marries up pretty well with the conference proceeds, but 3 or 4 years ago was kind of the low point, and there were a lot of kind of internal alarm bells going off about what our financial prospects looked like and what we were facing. And, there were a number of things that needed to be done. The first one was we just had to have a little bit of sense of realism and find ways to cut some costs that we had kind of grown over the last few years. Second was working hard to bring in more revenue through the conferences, through some of the other activities. And again, Megan's done a really good job on some of those efforts, and they've borne fruit. But I think, we've just managed it more closely. Bob Hunt also has done a great job trying to find ways that we can save and do more with less, and that's been fruitful. I'm a realist, and the fact that things turned around is great, and it's exactly what I wanted to see. But we're always a little bit one bad conference away from some bad stuff. We've got good, and I think the next slide will show our assets or so forth. We're in good financial shape. It's improving steadily. We're on a good track, and we'll continue doing the things we need to do. But we need to find some ways to bring in more funds that are more kind of lucrative and so forth, because we have big plans in terms of what our member services are going to be. Things like the CBOC update and so forth cost money, and we need to do those things to serve our members. So we intend to do that, and we've got to bring in money to do it. Do you want to say anything else about the numbers, Megan?
I've got the colors backwards. I can see that. Yeah, pretend it's black and white and look at the numbers and the writing other than that. We're doing good. I think you're right. We're always a conference away. We've got a cushion, but you don't ever want, you try to keep it there. We've done a lot of expense cutting. You've said this enough that I feel like I can say something without honking my horn at this point, but we've cut expenses a lot since I started here, and we're kind of at the point where the expenses have been cut. Short of doing things that will impact the services that we're able to provide, we're running out of corners. So it's time for us to start doing things that generate revenue if we're really looking to expand any further. There's no interest to be earned on cut expenses, and you cut them and they get absorbed. So we're going to have something coming in, more stuff coming in, if we're really going to take it to the next level.
Yeah, and then, and the expense reduction and so forth, we've tried really, really hard over the last few years, while bringing some of the costs down, not to degrade our member services and what we're really, providing in terms of value. Our board has been very clear about that we don't want to get into that kind of a death spiral where we're trying to save money, but we're having to cut some services, doing less for our members, making it less attractive, and then, next thing you know, you've got even less members and you got to cut more. So we don't want to get in that cycle. We want to go in the opposite direction, offer more, entice more people to join and expand. And I think we're on that track, and things are going well with that respect. And we want to keep it going, but it's a challenge.
Yeah.
All right. Why don't we go to the next one? All right. So we've kind of gone through what's going on in the association. We've got a few questions that we will address that came in prior. Again, if anybody has a question or something on the fly, maybe we can get to that too. So the first one is, and I'll just read the question, I would like to see a financial statement to include assets and liabilities, administrative costs, salaries, rent, publishing, supplies, and all income and expenses of annual conferences, both ICEAA's and joint conference. This information should be made available to the membership once a year. So a lot of stuff packed into that, but I think the overall sentiment is it's about transparency and having an open book and so forth. I like to think that's what we're doing. I think, in fact, we do put out a lot of this information publicly. It's on the website. You can get to it. We publish the minutes from our board meetings, which include a treasurer's report at every meeting, which goes into probably a lot more detail than most people would really care for. Having said that, the other aspect of how we run the society or the association is pretty open. And for instance, we have open board meetings. If you abide by the rules and you are well behaved at the meeting, pretty much any member can attend. And more than that, we usually let non-board members ask questions or chime in on things. So just for instance, if somebody on the phone or in the membership really, really wanted to dig into, a deeper dive on some of the finances, first of all, they could attend a board meeting and listen to and ask questions of the treasurer. But frankly, if that didn't do the trick for them, I would have Bob Hunt sit down with them offline and answer questions, open up the books and show them. It's about transparency. We're not trying to hide anything, but we're trying to strike the right level of detail to the members on what we put out officially at any one time. So, my short answer on if anybody out there has some real questions or concerns about the association finances, please let us know, and we'll do our best to put those to rest and answer the questions. Anything you want to add on that, Megan?
Yeah, I guess the way I would have answered this question is this information is available all year, all the time. If you want to watch, we're recording this, so this will be on our YouTube channel. But you can also look at the slides from last year's and the 2015 webinars. All of the minutes and all of the supporting slides that happen at the board meetings are available on the website. You go to the About ICEAA tab. It flies out for leadership. You'll have to scroll past the roster of board members, but there's a whole slew of things for anybody who wants to look at them. You're welcome to. Also, if you want to check out the bylaws and constitution. It's the same about ICEAA flyout, and then you go down to the governance documents tab there.
Very good. So next one. All right, the next one's about industry outreach. What steps are being taken or planned to encourage more industry participation in ICEAA? Fundamentally, I think this goes back to the membership issues and in terms of declines and so forth. And maybe a little deeper, richer than that. From my perspective, we've had a bit of a decline over the last 2-3 years in terms of some of the big companies that have traditionally been very active in ICEAA and so forth. And, you know, just to be pretty blunt about it, you know, the big companies like Boeing and Lockheed Martin and so forth, a few years back were, I think, substantially more involved in ICEAA than they have been. And I'm not blaming the companies. The companies do what's in their interest. I blame ICEAA, and I think we just need to do more to engage with them. So that comes back to the outreach committee and what we're doing there. So we started really pumping up the outreach efforts a couple of years ago. It initially focused a lot more on the government side. We started a government liaison panel made up of, you know, some of the top officials in the government world, and engage with them and try to find ways that we could be of more value to their organizations, their member or their employees and so forth. And I think we did a pretty good job. It goes a long ways just being available and talking to them and you know, addressing their concerns. We haven't done the same thing with industry, and we need to. And that's really one of the major things that I hope Christian Smart takes on. And we do a lot more meetings engaging with industry and so forth, and other organizations too. But I agree with the sentiment of the question. I think it's hugely important. You know, we need to do more of it, and we will. Anything to add on that, Megan?
No, what I will say is we got a question come in while we were on the phone, as well as one I think earlier this morning, kind of asking the same thing. I would love to see anybody who wants to help out with this outreach committee and has some contacts and has some ideas, send them on in. We can use all the help we can get.
Absolutely. Okay. Go to the next one. I can't remember. Is that there's
no,
another?
Those were the questions we got in time to prepare. It's 12:53. I think if we cut it off now, we'd give everybody time to hit the restroom before they get back to work after their lunch hour.
Yeah. Well, I would finish up by saying, you know, again, thank you very much for all of you who have dialed in to listen. I know you care, or you wouldn't be on the phone. Please feel free to, you know, let your colleagues who didn't have the opportunity to spend an hour today on this, let them know what's going on. I would say that this is a little bit of a fraction of kind of the highlights of the last year or so. There's a lot of things going on. There's a lot of great efforts by, you know, lots and lots of people on the committees and the board and even members at large. We're here to facilitate. We're here to you know, take your ideas and try to make something real out of them. If you want to get engaged, if you want to you know, talk to any one of us, we're here. Megan's email and her phone number and so forth is on the slide. Contact us, let us know, and you know, we'll try to follow up on things. But I really appreciate all of our membership, all of everything that you do to make the organization work and run, from the chapter level all the way up to the board. Please keep doing that. Stay involved and get the word out, trying to entice some new members. That's really what I ask. So thank you very much. But really the last order of business was to kind of declare the the next annual meeting, which will be around the same time of the year in September of 2018. Most likely it will be some type of webinar format. We're always looking for ideas and experimenting with new things. I'd love to make this a little bit more interactive without kind of losing total control of the thing. So if you have ideas on how that might work and how we can balance that, let me know directly and we can explore some of those. But so thank you very much. I will hopefully talk to some of you in the future, and take care. Thanks for dialing in. Megan, do you have anything else before we sign off?
No, thank you for taking the lead on this, and thanks everybody for listening. I think we'll call it a meeting.
All right, great. All right, enjoy your upcoming weekend.
Thanks, everyone.